Welcome, everybody. This is Business Networking for Success, Part 5, and we're going to be talking about influence. I'm one of your co-instructors, Scott Patton, and over here is who are you?
I'm Chaffee Tan Nguyen, and welcome to this course. Excited to have you. And this is one of my favorite courses. A little bit about, should we tell a little bit about ourselves first, Scott?
Well, before we do that, I have a question for you, Chaffee.
Yes,
How
sir.
many networking events have you attended in your life?
So if I had to guess, it would be over 2,500. And I know it's several thousand, at least over the past now close to 20 years of networking. So not only have I attended a couple thousand or more events, I've actually run over 1,000 events myself. So not just as an attendee, as an organizer, as somebody that's actually put these events on, I've done a lot of that as well.
Awesome. All right. So what are we going to learn in this course?
So this course is all about using persuasion and influence skills to move people from where they are to where you want them to be when you're talking with them and networking with them at different events. And before we dive deep into that, I just want to say that, persuasion and influence it's not about a game of manipulation, right? I mean, my purpose of teaching this, our purpose of teaching this, Scott, is not so that you can manipulate people into doing things that you want them to do that's not going to benefit them in any way whatsoever. The strategies and techniques you're going to learn here are very powerful, and they could be used for, good or bad things. And obviously, our purpose here is to help you move people to a position that's going to enable them to make decisions to their benefit so that it will help them. Right. And in doing so, then they can move forward with their life or with their business or whatever it is that, using your product or service that you're sharing with them. So again, the skills that we're teaching are very powerful. And what we want to teach you is how to use this to help benefit people, help move people forward versus, just selling them something or making them doing something, manipulating them into, what you want to do for your own purposes. Right. So
right. We're assuming that you have a service or a product that's going to help people and that you want to find the ideal client for your product and service. And then you want to be able to explain it in a way in a networking event scenario that you want to explain it in a way that they're going to realize right away, yeah, I need to get together with this person again, find out more about what it is that they're talking about, because it looks like that would be a really good solution to my problem.
Exactly. And so persuasion and influence is all about, now before I get into that, understand that most people make decisions based upon their past. And sometimes that past perception, that past experience that they've had will prevent them from moving or taking that next step. And so your job as an influencer, as somebody that is persuasive, is to take them beyond their vision, right? So take them from where they're at right now, where they're stuck, and move them to a position where they can see the opportunity, where they can see the advantages of working with you or your service for their benefit again, right? And so again, it's not about manipulation. It's not about making people do something they don't want. It's about taking somebody from where they're at and helping them move beyond that into a position where they can see the opportunities.
Yeah. And most people don't have these skills. Like there's so many people that I see at networking events where you just turn everybody off. They just turn everybody off. And it's like, stay away. I don't really want to have too much to do with you.
Well, the other thing that I see a lot of times is, especially with newer networkers, people that are just getting into a business or just getting into a company, and they go out and they start networking, is that they tend to overtalk, or they tend to really just want to sell, right? Oh, I got this great thing, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And when you go straight for buy my stuff and they don't know how to get there, then, you've automatically turned them off, because now you're just sounding like a salesperson and not really somebody that has something that can benefit other people. So
a negative stereotypic used car salesperson is
That's
what
right.
you end up, neon lights, buy. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold.
Right. Absolutely. And so our job, again, as influencers, as people that go out and talk about the things that we have, is to, again, walk people through that process of getting them to where you want to be so that they can make an educated, informed decision about your product or your service.
And when this may be a little bit of a tangent, but we're in the introduction, so we're allowed to go off on tangents. One of the things that, you talk about influence. One of the ways that you have influence and build influence is by, and we may be talking about this more specifically later, is by saying, you know what, Chaffee, you told me you had a problem. You don't like your coffee that you've been drinking for the last 10 years anymore. It's too bitter. But my friend Joe here has been making, brewing coffee for like 30 years, and he makes a great cup. I should introduce the two of you, and then you see if you like his coffee, right? But what often happens is what I've noticed from people who are really into networking, and it's a pet peeve of mine, which is why I bring it up right now, is I know Joe, but his coffee sucks. Sorry, it's really bad. But because I know him and I'm so want to be an influencer, I'm going to go and tell you about his coffee, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not listening to you because I know his coffee is bitter, and I know you hate bitter coffee. But regardless, the only person I know who makes coffee is Joe, so I'm going to tell you about it. And it's not just a little bit of a loss of trust. It's a huge bit, because all of a sudden I'm painting myself as somebody that is so desperate to be an influencer that regardless of whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm going to tell you. Now you're going to waste a week because you're going to buy a couple pounds of coffee. You're going to try it and you're going to think, well, this isn't very good, but I'll give it a whirl tomorrow. Oh, this isn't very good. Well, Scott said it was, so I'm going to try again. And then you're going to go, well, I'm not going to believe Scott when he says anything about coffee ever again, because this is not very good. And I've seen that happen over and over again with people who I would say are experienced networkers. I'm going like,
yeah,
why did you do that? Right? Because you're just so focused on, and sometimes it's around business, right? Like they know my business is making widgets, and then they go and they tell you in front of me about Joe who makes widgets. And I'm like, you're obviously not on my side, right?
And I agree that comes, as I go back to what we said before, is that this is not about manipulation. It's not about getting people somewhere that does not benefit them. If you know that Joe's coffee is horrible, you don't want to manipulate or influence somebody to use Joe's coffee, because again, that's your integrity, that's who you are, that's your word, and you're telling somebody to use something that doesn't benefit them. And
right.
The other thing, Scott, real quick before you jump in, is that the other reason why some people do this is because they're in a referral networking group and they're required to make referrals, and they end up referring people to people within the group only because they're required to make referrals. And that again does the other person a disservice. And in your example, a cup of coffee doesn't cost a lot. And in my experience, and this has happened to me in the past, somebody referred me to a mechanic where I had a $2,500 bill, and that mechanic messed up the service that they provided me, and it ended up costing me another $2,500 to fix. So, again, it
can be big mistakes.
It could be big mistakes, absolutely. And of course, I to this day will not take another referral from that person, because they only did it because, they were in my group, after I went back and asked them why they referred me to that person. And they're like, I don't even use them. I'm like, well, why are you referring me to somebody that you don't even use? Because they were part of my group. So be aware of that.
So the flip side of this is what happens when Chaffee says to me, Scott, I've got a problem with my car, and I say, I know two mechanics and they're both really bad, so I'm sorry, I can't help you on that one. Right? All of a sudden it's like, really? And I do, it's called a takeaway in sales, right? But I do that all the time. I tell people all the time, well, I don't think this I know somebody that makes websites, but I don't really think they're a good fit for you. So sorry, right? And it's, I mean, they could force the name out of me, but I'm not recommending them. And that's a big difference.
Awesome.
So in this course, we're going to be talking about persuasion. We're going to go through what persuasion begins with. We're going to be talking about some strategies for persuasion, and we're going to be talking about what verbal persuasion is. You know, what how to use rhetorical questions, how to answer a question with a question, those sort of fun things. And when you're done, what we really want you to do is spend some time, go through the course again, and slowly, and this time take certain parts and practice them, whether it's in front of a mirror, whether it's with your pet, your dog, your cat, with your significant other, with your kids. Oh, and if you want to know how to be really persuasive, watch 4 and 5-year-olds when they want to get something.
And what I will say is that as we go through these lessons and courses, and as we go through these techniques and strategies, there's a good chance you've already seen these lessons implemented when you go out and network. You just didn't realize that somebody was actually using them, right? Or you didn't realize what they were called, or you didn't realize how you could use them. And I remember when I first started networking, I was being mentored by one of the best networkers, in my opinion, in the world. And he was doing all these strategies and techniques, and like I would see him just like influence and persuade people to do certain things. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Only he didn't really know, like he was doing it so naturally that he didn't really have a terminology or a technique or a strategy that he could put it to, because he just combined them all together. And it was just like all one nice flow. And then when I actually, a couple years later, learned the actual name of the technique, the strategy, how to implement it, and how to put it together, I was like, oh, that's what he did. Oh, that's how it happened. Oh, it was like the light bulb came on, and it was all just like, wow, that makes sense now. And I understand like how he got that person from here at A to B, because he was using this technique and that strategy. And so there's a good chance that if you've been networking a lot and you've been hanging around a lot of people, you've seen a lot of these before. And when we go through them, now you can put a name to a strategy or a technique and start practicing them and implementing them in your strategy as you go out and you network as well.
Awesome. So we're really excited that you're taking this course with us. There's a Q&A button, and sometimes they, you know, it's, who knows where they do it. They change the look of the site every year or two, and it moves somewhere else. But make sure that you, first of all, go there, introduce yourself, tell us where you are, what you want to get out of the course, and what your goals are. And then throughout the course, when you've got questions, make sure you put it in there. We're around. I'm around all the time, and if I don't know the answer, I'll ask Chaffee, or Chaffee will jump in and he'll contribute his part as well. And let us know how you're doing, okay? Because this is not just a bunch of videos where you can go and listen and then nothing ever happens. We're active instructors in the Udemy platform. We're active instructors in whatever platform this is that you're watching it on, unless it's a black hat pirate site, in which case we're probably not active there. So, all right, well, let's get started. All right, we're out of time.